Welcome to WTF is going on in Latin America and the Caribbean, CODEPINK's bi-weekly broadcast of hot news out of the region. Today, we're going to talk about the move right in Latin America by focusing on the Southern Cone, specifically Argentina. Joining us from Buenos Aires is Delfina Rossi. She is an economist, a member of the board of directors at Banco Ciudad, and a member of the National Council of Partido Justiciasta. I hope I said that right, Partido Justicialista. I've been practicing that. Her full bio, which is impressive, will be posted in the episode description. So welcome, Delfina. We're so fortunate to have you here live from Argentina. Really appreciate you making time for us today.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to retell the English-speaking audience on what's going on here in Argentina.
Well, so let's talk specifically about, let's start with the labor protests that have erupted this week. That's all over the regional news, and maybe we can give some background for our audience in North America as to what the labor protests are about, right, what triggered them, and how and why workers are responding.
Right. As you might know, Argentina has one of the strongest labor movement and labor organizations in the region. This comes from Perón's times in the 1940s. And despite the fact that during neoliberalist periods, our labor market has been fragmented and it's a mix of informal positions and formal ones, the formal workers are well organized, and we have strong unions that defend workers in a unit, like we said. We have single union representation for each activity. So labor movement is quite strong, and it has been called like for the right wings, like the cause of why we have such a like bad salaries and high level of unemployment, right? So in this dispute, of course, the far-right Milei government has put the accent into dismantleize and demobilize and destruct the labor union organization in Argentina. And this was the aim of the government since they reached the office in December 2023, when they had the first decree and they wanted to remove a lot of labor rights. With that, they had a second chance with what we call a ley bases, they call it, like a big law reform in many aspects of regulation, deregulations, and so on and so forth. And they tried there again to have a big chapter on labor unions and labor rights that has been judicialized. And this is the third time after the second term elections where they, unfortunately for ourselves, they confirmed their support from part of the society, that this is the third time the government is trying to pass a law, this time calling only labor reform. And in that law, they are keeping workers out of what we call fundamental rights that are in our own constitutions, like, for example, the right to strike. Now we have minimum coverage from workers in almost every single activity if you want to go to strike. So with that, we have less recognitions on holidays. We have flexible working hours instead of paying extra hours. There are more recognition. There are many reforms. And of course, there's also the reform of getting labor unions out of the ability to negotiate and the ability to keep on pushing for labor workers' rights. So last week we had the voting in the Senate. In the Senate was the chamber that first voted the labor reform, and the government won the votings. And then this week we are expecting to have tomorrow the voting in the House. The members of the House are gonna vote the labor reform, and this is why the labor unions are calling for general strike on tomorrow. I don't know if I made myself some clear.
Yeah, no, very clear. And I mean, and the history of labor in Argentina is significant. So what we've been seeing in the press, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I've personally seen, has been the increase in hours and the possibility of workers being paid with food and housing versus currency. Is that
right?
I mean, because that is like company towns in the United States a century ago.
Well, actually, I've been saying that de facto labor market, labor rights, because of the strong austerity measures that we were just mentioning, and because of the fact that the economic program of Javier Milei, it's about deindustrialize Argentina. They are coming in with such a big economic reform where there only will be two ways of Argentina to produce some economic income, and that is oil and gas and agro and natural resources related. But industrial manufacturing is completely out of the plan of Javier Milei, and it has been like we are living through a big industrial crisis. For you to have some idea in mind, during the full year, the first year of the mandate of Javier Milei, 2024, industry production has diminished in almost 10%. And now the second year, in the 2025, it diminished on top of that, 4% more. Today news is that FATE, like one of the big companies making car wheels, you say that, neumáticos, I don't know what is the correct name for neumáticos. It's closing the historic plan, and there are going to be more than 920 workers out of place. So this is the news today, and I mean, a lot of rights are in disputes in this labor reform, but on top of that, we are living through a daily conflict of salaries that are really below poverty rate and really bad working conditions, and companies where workers used to have labor rights that are just closing and leaving the country. So the crisis is quite has multiple optics that we have to consider, I want to say.
So you mentioned deindustrialization. This is like, oh, I'm sorry. I missed you for just a moment.
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned deindustrialization. This is Milei's plan for the national economy to deindustrialize, with the exception of natural resource extraction. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, indeed. The only sectors that are increasing their productions are oil and gas, and of course, all the food-related agro business. That means it's not that we are increasing our productions of cheese, but instead of just increasing our soya and basic agro production that we do export, but we are not being able to add value to those products coming from our earth. And the problem is that those sectors, oil and gas and also agribusiness, are really they do not employ many people. They really have a lot of productivity, and they might be super competitive worldwide, but they do not employ people. And our people is mainly based in the suburban areas of big cities like Buenos Aires, Rosario, Córdoba, Bahía Blanca, these big industrial cities where there's no more industrial production. That will generate big big areas of poverty and conflict. And also we do have there, of course, cartels and drug cartels getting into Argentina, something that was really strange in our country, different from the rest of Latin America. So the
But
problem
those
of this
cartels
labor
are filling
reform
the void. I'm sorry, those cartels are filling the
feeling,
void.
indeed,
Yeah.
it's filling the void of an state that is not there neither. There is no capabilities. And also in terms of the national government, it's a decision for the government to reduce the spending in education, health, etc. So the crisis is combined. And what is the problem that we, like the left and the Peronist, what we are facing in the street while we are dealing against this labor reform is that people say, hey, already things are going bad. Who cares about the law if things in the streets are already very bad? So it's a difficulty that we are reaching in terms of the political debate of why people should strike tomorrow, should go on the general strike, defend themselves, when daily life it's already complicated. And that is where we are doing an extra effort to say, hey, we need not to give up on these labor rights that, as you said, most of them are coming since the 18th century when we reached the 8 hours limit per day, right? We are getting back towards that.
So there's an erosion of the domestic economy, deindustrialization, no finished product, basically. How does that fit in with lithium extraction? I mean, a couple weeks ago, week and a half ago, the US Secretary of State had his critical minerals ministerial, I think is what he called it, a ministerial. And Argentina participated, as did, I think, about 30 other countries from the region, including members of the EU that have territory in the Americas. I know last time we did an episode on Argentina. We specifically talked about the lithium triangle, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. And at that time, all the governments were, well, Argentina and Bolivia were already left of center, progressive and leftist governments. And we were all waiting for Chile to go left. And now everyone in that lithium triangle has moved to the right. So what does that mean?
Yeah, we of course see the reorganization of the United States and all this pledge that Marco Rubio had just said about Occidentalism and how they are gonna conquer the world from that. We see it as a threat towards our national sovereignty, right? And our natural resources are of course, really in the sense is not exclusive for Argentina, but we do have not only the lithium in our north, but also we have the oil in Vaca Muerta, and also we are a bicontinental country. We do have part of our national territory in La Antártida, a source of water and also mineral resources and so on and so forth. So it's clear that Argentina has a strategic position, and also we are connecting the Pacific and the Antarctic. So geopolitically speaking, it's extremely clear why you need to control over or you want like hegemony wants to have control over Argentina. It's clear for us that the question is that the program that they are trying to deliver to us doesn't even think that we need to have work for our people. They are not even offering any kind of in exchange of the ways to develop our industry, our capacities, etc., etc. It's a way of subordination, more like a colonialism than anything else. And this is where we say, hey, listen, this is not a fair agreement. That is why the Argentina-US trade agreement will not be in favor to our people. And this is where we need to have business relations, trade relations, political relations with the United States and the rest of the Americas, but not in that terms, because we need a country that provides wellness and well-being for our people for first, not for the interest of the big rich people in the world. So it's clear for us that the labor reform that Milei is trying to pass through Congress, it's part of the plan of making the Argentine people more docile and more incapable of defend themselves from the biggest country, or the rich people, or the biggest companies
The
that
biggest
try
threat
to
to
have
the north. It's okay.
in
We
our
can say
country.
that. We can say that.
The
biggest
ultra
threat
rich,
is in the
I
north.
don't know. The biggest threat is in the north. Yes, we don't like them much. I don't know.
We can say that. So it really is a question of national sovereignty, and
Exactly.
and that's a theme all over the Americas right now, specifically Latin America and the Caribbean. Is this U.S. driven project for the hemisphere?
And let me say one more thing. I think all this plan is doable, and it's been passing through also because there has been two person that has been get out of the way of United States plans, let's say, and Milei's plans on deindustrializing and make Argentina a country that cannot defend themselves. And it's Pope Francis that is not there any longer because he passed away. And Pope Francis was a front of line of defending our sovereignty for sure in the international scene. And also the fact that they put in prison Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, the former president, who she was really outspeaking, and she is our president of our national party, and she was the loudest voice in terms of exposing the interest of the United States, the big corporations from abroad, and also the people whose persons out of the scene. Has been easier for Milei and the allies to move against our own people.
I'm glad you brought up Cristina Kirchner and the situation with her, because that has to a certain degree slipped from our activist conversation up north. And just for our audience, we do have a past episode on the Media-Judicial coup against Cristina.
Mm-hmm.
She was vice president, so I'll put that link in the program description for additional background for the audience. But yeah, it was definitely a coup against her, lawfare, as we've come to call it,
Exactly.
to remove her from the political landscape. Her voice, her presence, her whole vision for Argentina is, locked behind bars now. So let's, in the few minutes that we have remaining, if we could switch to, or have you, because you're such well-educated economists and you do work with the Banco Ciudad, could you give us a very general, so that those of us who are laypersons economically, what is the austerity program, the big chainsaw that Milei has taken to the economy and the fiscal system in Argentina? And you can be very general with this, so that we can, grasp it.
Okay.
Those of us that aren't as versed.
So let me say first that one of the reasons why Milei won the election is because inflation rate was very high during the last government. Last Peronist government had the difficulties to deal with that because previous government, Mauricio Macri, left us with a huge amount of debt and the International Monetary Fund, right? So in some way, the previous Peronist government was not able to deal with the demands that the IMF had on one hand and the people have on the other hand that are not compatible most of the time. So we have a big rate of inflation, and that was why our workers and our people were suffering the most to deal with that. So people voted for Javier Milei, and Milei promised to just get rid of the inflation, but making the state smaller. And that's where austerity comes from. And that's a story we already know, all of us that follow the European Union crisis and everything. It's always the same story, right? The state is not working, and then we make it smaller and it will work better.
Right.
So that
and then we deindustrialize it.
Obviously, that's it, right?
Yeah.
So what we tried over the last year is to say, hey, it's okay. You need to make things more efficient. You need to get rid of the inflation and so on. But it's not true that the state it's better when the state doesn't deliver, medicine for oncological people or the kids. We have a national hospital for children, the Garrahan, that has been definized, and the workers there are being calling on many strikes, and we have a lot of demonstrations to try to get some money for the hospital that just provide health to the children in our country, right? So the Milei did cut many in education, and also he cut transfer to our provinces, our states, right? And it's been complicated because, for example, these days, after 2 years of Javier Milei, in many states in the countryside of Argentina, like not in Buenos Aires, even the police is striking because salaries are not enough and working conditions are bad. So you have the national strike on one side, you have the workers in the industry also protesting, and you have because salaries are very low. But on the other hand, Javier Milei has put a lot of money in restructuring public debt, and that costs money. There was no restructuration of public debt done in a way that benefits like the most, and the superávit, like the money that they are achieving is not because of efficiency, but rather because they are cutting spending and just keep on spending money in debt and paying debt and public debt and restructuring in those terms. So that is more or less what's going on in here.
Wow. So just a complete gutting. Just like you said, there's no, deindustrializing the economy, cutting government services, including hospitals servicing children. So it's just a complete gutting of society. So what's the end game to make citizens, as we talked earlier, like everyone's a vassal, like so much of the world was 100, 200 years ago? Or what's the end game?
Exactly. So here the idea is that every person fights for its own daily life, no caring about anything of like communitarian society move. And that's super worrisome, particularly in this world. As we said, Argentina has a geopolitical position that is super strategic. We have threat. We have a national territory that is occupied by another country, I'm talking about the Malvinas Islands that are occupied by the UK. So we do have a threat, international threats. We do have a lot of domestic challenges in terms of getting produce jobs and daily and decent salaries for our people. But the government is keeping itself out of all of this discussion. So the government is saying, hey, I'm only controlling inflation. That, by the way, there has been a big debate on the inflation rate measurement because the government decided to delay uh, the implementation of the new index related to another statistics reason. So the government is like, hey, I'm only gonna take care of inflation and that's it. You forget about me, about all the rest of the things. And that is this is
Wow.
gonna create chaos. This is why many other political actors are calling this government a government of chaos, and that they try to win discussions by confronting different groups of Argentinians among themselves and creating chaos instead of trying to get a more national approach to all of those problems.
Well, I have to say, listening to you describe the current situation, it sounds so much like the U.S. program for Europe, for the EU, and the really frightening thing with Argentina is that the Trump administration really sees your government, your nation, as the spearhead of this project for the entire region. Like Argentina is a model to the Secretary of the Treasury in the United States and for the President and Secretary of State. You're like the model that they envision for everybody
Please
else
don't.
in the hemisphere.
Please,
it's horrible. I mean, it's just horrible how that's being touted in the United States. Well, around the hemisphere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there's a lot of things that are just like just a cartoon of our president and how to present the government in front of the rest of the world. But on the other hand, if you talk concretely about numbers, our trade with China has increased in the last 2 years. For example, a strategic investment like the next gas, I don't know how to say it in English, gasoducto, like we need the pipeline that goes from Vaca Muerta to the sea to get the gas and the oil out and try to export. Well, that project was won by an Indian company that is supported by the Chinese government instead of, So what I'm trying to say here is that things are more complex, and our industry is suffering from the fact that a lot of products produced by China that are not able to enter into the US market any longer are just getting in here. And so most of the measures that Trump is applying in this chaotic way are creating problems in here instead of in China, right? So, so things are not so crystal clear. The same like when Besen gave us the bailout for just previous the election. Well, the government also decided to reduce tariff on soybeans and so on and so forth, and that went directly to China. And so what I mean, it's not so clear that we are supporting this way of friendshoring, reshoring, or restructuring global commerce of that Trump has been saying that he's gonna do, but in the middle we have all these uncertainties. This maybe it's a bit confusing what I'm trying to say, but it's clear that there is a political alliance between Trump and Javier Milei, and financially it works for Besen and the US to give us money to lend us Argentina money. But in terms of trade, I don't see yet how this is gonna work. And of course, we mentioned it by the exchanging WhatsApp, but of course this also has to do on the position of Israel and sectors that are supporting Israel, and we have a big Jewish community here in Argentina, and that position of supporting Israel and not even talking about what's going on in Gaza, it's super present in this country too.
Wow. Well, it's a big dismantling project, and I hope that we can have you come back and keep us updated on what's happening. I'm so thankful you had time to join us today, and it's been very, very valuable having this conversation with you, and really I really appreciate you joining us, and I look forward to
thank you
having you come back. Thank
you for your patience, and I'm sorry if my English and words.
Your English is fabulous.
Not been.
Your English is
maybe
is
I wasn't able to be as precise as I wanted.
I think we learned a lot from you today.
About these things in okay, thank you.
We learned a lot from you today, and I look forward to you coming back. And to our audience, thank you for joining us this morning. I should make one quick reference to the audience. This episode, this conversation took place on Wednesday, February 18th, and the labor protest that Delfina mentioned will be Thursday, February 19th, correct? And the audience will be seeing this conversation on Saturday, February 21st. So I just wanted to make that clarification. And thank you again, Delfina. Thank you to our audience. And we will see you all again in our next episode of What the F is Going On in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.